Oh, good morning. This is Dwight Mitchell from Mitchell and Son Additive Manufacturing, or 3D printing, if you like. Well, here we are at the end of 2022, or almost at the end of the manufacturing year for 2022. Um, like I said before, it's been a very good year for in a lot of ways. It's been a very rough year. We, as a small business owner, when we have those ups and downs, it can be quite turmoil. When you more of a large and established business, you can ride out these storms. I mean, there's a saying. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this saying that we are all in the same boat. I don't fully agree with that particular term. I do think that we are all in the same storm, but we are not all in the same boat, because some of us are in little rowing boats, some of us are in little life rafts, some in kayaks, some in fishing boats, some in larger fishing trawlers, some in major big ocean liners. But I do agree with the fact that we are all in the same storm. Over the last 3 years, it has been for business and for industry, it has been a massive storm. With COVID for 2 years, with the financial crisis, with the war in Ukraine, it has been a massive storm for all of us, and we are all globally at this time facing or feeling the effects of the Russia-Ukrainian conflict. Now, I do want to wish all the Ukrainian, anyone from Ukraine who's listening or hears this broadcast, a very Merry Christmas. Our hearts and our thoughts are with you at this very, very difficult time. I also want to extend a hand or an olive branch to any Russians who are listening to this. We know that this isn't something that every single Russian around the world supports. There are a lot of Russians speaking people here in the UK and even in Russia who are finding this whole war and this whole conflict with Ukraine a very difficult time, especially now in the winter in the Northern Hemisphere. Um, it's not something that you all want. So we do hope and pray that a end to this conflict will come soon. But we do wish and we do hope and do pray that you will all find comfort at this time, especially those who are suffering incredible hardship in Ukraine during this time. So we just wanted to just get that out of the way and say, our thoughts are with you. Now, the end of the year, Christmas period, December month is always a very bittersweet time for me personally, because of the time. It's over 30 years ago. I got a really the awful phone call that my father had been killed in a car crash on the 20th of December. So it was a very, very bitter time in that regard, but it's just a very sweet time because I'm a Christian, and it was through the death of my father and through a lot of circumstances surrounding his death that I ended up coming to know Jesus Christ as my Savior and my Lord. So it's a very bittersweet time of the year for me, but I know it's just a blessed time for many people, um, getting together with family, sometimes families they haven't seen for ages. It's a good time to remember why we come together at this time of the year. So I do want to wish all of those, and as you can see at the ticker at the bottom of this thing, I want to thank everybody that has supported our business, and has come to us for their products and for our services. We thank you for that. We thank you for those who supported us and those who we partnered with. There's been many, and there's far too many names to try and list out at the moment, because a lot of people who listen to this won't even know who I'm talking about. But you all know who you are. There's been network meetings. There's been businesses that I've come alongside and worked alongside, and we've worked well. So thank you for your support during this very rough and turbulent 2 or 3 years. As you can see at the ticker at the bottom, recently in the last 3 weeks, we recently launched a web design or a web SEO service. Something that we did do over 3 years ago when I first launched Mitchell and Son Additive Manufacturing. We had a web design SEO service running, but I shelved that. I put that on the back burner for a few years until. But now I think now is the right time to launch it. So please do us a favor, visit Imagine Digital Design. It's the web address is https colon hash forward slash www.imaginedigitaldesign.co.uk. It's a new service. Again, we relaunched, rebranded a little bit, and relaunched that to reach out to various different people across not only England but America and Canada as well. So have a look at that. Do us a favor. And if you can support us, support that work as you have Mitchell and Son. Mitchell and Son is going to continue going in 2023. We have seen a lot of improvements, a lot of increased demand for our services. In the last, say, 6 months, we've gone from quite a low traffic on Google to, and we can just see it exponentially growing. So Mitchell and Son Additive Manufacturing is a service that will continue next year alongside Imagine Digital Design. It's both of these we have enough expertise and enough experience with to be able to do. The web design side I did for about 4 or 5 years before launching Mitchell and Son Additive Manufacturing, but I did that more as a hobby and as a side, just a learning curve. But I think now is the right time to launch that again. So yeah, this is us. Well, there's a couple of really interesting things. I mean, I get a lot of emails from people that do SEO, and it does make me laugh because they often tell me that I'm not. Mitchell and Son Additive Manufacturing is not ranking in the way that it should. Where I know that I'm ranking on the first or second page in 150 cities here in the UK, 40 cities in Europe, and at least 20 cities in America. So sometimes we must think about when we sending out our email blasts, because the wording can discredit what we're saying. We just need a little bit be careful of that. But with Mitchell and Son Additive Manufacturing, looking forward into the new year, we do look with growing anticipation because of the fact that we have seen our growth going up quite substantially on Google. We have been seeing the searches growing in an incredibly fast way. So we're going up from, well, I'll let you know, beginning of this year, up until about April, June, I was only getting about 500 or 600 visits a month on our site. Up until now, we are almost at 3,000 organic visits. Why that's important? Because organic traffic is so much more sustainable than pay-per-click. Pay-per-click is instant gratification, where the organic traffic can take quite a lot longer. But once you get there, you can maintain that without paying a penny. It just does cost you time. A couple of the exciting things that we have seen with our service is that there is a growing demand for metal 3D printing. I think plastic 3D printing is still obviously that demand. There is still that want for prototypes or for small objects that people want. But we have been starting to see over the last, say, 5 months, more and more people requesting metal items, metal objects to be 3D printed, whether that is a gear or a I've had a few ornaments that people have requested to be 3D printed, or car parts, or a variety of different things. So we are seeing an upsurge in that, which is really good. And this is why we have a partnership with a big international additive manufacturing company based in both New York and in the Netherlands, to be able to provide that service of being able to create metal objects. And we can do that. We can 3D print in titanium, Inconel, aluminium, copper, 14 karat gold, 18 karat gold. But no, I'll just stop myself there. The 3D printing in gold, or even in copper and bronze and brass, the way it's done, it's actually done through the investment casting process. In the investment casting process, what that does is where it gets its name from is the fact that you make an investment in the wax. So you create a one-off wax model, and then it is surrounded with a ceramic casing, and that's normally put into like a tree. So you will do say 15 wax models put into this tree, and then the molten metal is cast into that. So once that you've cast, you've only got really one opportunity to cast that particular model, because once, obviously for obvious reasons, when the molten metal pours into the wax, it dissipates and it's gone. But then you have a gold or a cast, so you don't have to go through the whole process. I mean, there's been many other processes which can make gold or copper or bronze or brass, or even platinum, quite expensive in the process of casting it. Now I know there is advancements in technology where these processes are being improved, and it's bringing it to a point where you don't need the investment casting. We don't have that technology. We don't have access to that technology at the moment. So we still use the investment casting process at this current time for things like sterling silver, copper, brass, bronze, 14 karat gold, 18 karat gold. For items like steel, Inconel, titanium, aluminium, that's going straight from a electronic 3D model into the particular item that you want. Now, what is the advantage of using 3D printing opposed to the traditional casting? And I'm not trying to eliminate casting, so don't get me, because 3D printing still has its limits in size. So, but if you're going for a smaller items to be created in metal, the advantage of using 3D printing is you don't have the tooling costs. Yes, it might cost a little bit more, because this is my thing, is people will come to me and say to me, well, I paid 10 quid for that, but down the shop. You've got to understand that a lot of people, if you're going to get something mass produced, the initial layout, so the manufacturer who initially launched that product has a massive financial layout to be able to produce those parts so he can sell it for £10 an item. Where if you're doing it a one-off, it's a custom one-off part getting made. So you have the 3D model. There's no tooling costs involved. Absolutely zero tooling costs involved when 3D printing, and not only with metal, but with all plastics, with resins. There isn't any tooling costs involved, where traditional manufacturing initially, mostly, especially if you can buy a plastic item for £2, where a 3D printing company is asking you £20, you got to understand that initially the manufacturer that launched that, or the person who produced that part initially, had to lay out thousands, if not tens of thousands of times, to be able to sell that part for £1 on the market. So with 3D printing, you don't have any of those overheads of tooling costs. You got to, if you are a designer and you create the 3D model, then fantastic. You don't even have to pay for the 3D model. There are also on the internet, there is huge amounts of 3D printing models that you can download for free or that are already made for a very cheap pricing, depending on what you want to pay. So there is a massive amount of free 3D models on the internet. You just have to look for them. But if you want something bespoke, if you wanted something very custom, then there is a cost. There is a fee that we charge for a 3D model. Um, but then, and most people do. Most engineering companies will charge a small fee for a 3D model, and then it's 3D printing. So you're looking at where you know, and the thing is, the beauty is this: once you've created that 3D model, once you have that, while the electronic data is available, while either the company that created the 3D model or yourself has that 3D, you never, ever have to create that 3D model again, ever. So you've got something for life. First of all, you're saving yourself huge amounts of stock holding, because you don't have to hold stock. You can print on demand. Print only when there's demand. So you don't have to have shelving. You only print when you have a paying customer wanting that item. Then you print it. So you've saved against on storage and on logistics and on um, tooling, thousands using 3D printing opposed to um, traditional manufacturing or traditional supply chain sources where you have to buy 10,000 and store them. You have to pay tooling, and you got logistics. Whenever somebody wants to buy it, you've got to pay, or you've got to pay a replenishment center to replenish, like Amazon or someone like that. So you're keeping the stock there, and they're having to replenish the stock. When you've got electronic 3D models, that's it. All you're doing is you keep the files on your computer, and you only print on demand. Makes common sense, especially in the economic environment that we are finding ourselves in with this, the impact of the war in Europe. We're finding that the economies are shrinking, and people's spending power is being restricted. You're looking at the extra cost of electricity coming out, and just really tightening everybody's spending power. Where if you can eliminate your stock holding, if you can eliminate the logistical storage of spare parts waiting for customers to buy, or when the need arises, surely that makes sense. Or reducing the need for fulfillment centers to hold your stock and then replenish when the customer buys. Surely that makes sense to save that money, to have the electronic models on your system and only print on demand, only create the items that are needed when they're needed. That, whether that's be a plastic item, whether that be a resin, whether that be a metal item, it surely makes sense to only print on demand and save. The cost savings are huge, massive. Do the maths. Do the maths. The cost savings of holding electronic stock rather than holding physical items in a warehouse, and having fulfillment centers and logistics staff makes common sense. With the amount of couriers out there, and there's a huge array, we also been able to get those parts to customers quickly is more effective than it was, say, 10 or 20 years ago. So that's, again, the advantages of using 3D printing, the advantages of metal 3D printing, the advantages of plastic and resin 3D printing. It just makes common sense to, in a time. I mean, think about it. Just don't put aside the whole idea of how expensive you may or may not feel an item is with 3D printing. Put your business hat on. Sit and think about it. Think, how much more sense does it make? How much more financial sense does it make in a business in these current economic, worldwide economic situation that we find ourselves? How much more common sense does it make to have electronic data, have electronic or digital stock holding, opposed to physical stock holding? There's, and don't get me wrong, there is limitations to 3D printing, huge limitations. There are certain things 3D printing just cannot print. There are certain things that are so big that it doesn't make economic sense to 3D print them. So I'm not saying we must eliminate all that we must, every single thing, depending on what industry you're in, depending what your products are. There are so many. I mean, if you look, I've worked in manufacturing as a production planner, production scheduler for almost 25 years before starting Mitchell and Son Additive Manufacturing. And I know that if you go into the stores, there are so many consumable parts that oftentimes when you get to this time of the year, they'll be writing off because they are obsolete. They are slow movers. You've spent all that money over the year to create and to bring up your storage of these particular parts to hold them in case you need them. And then you get to the end of the year and you don't need them anymore. So you've had to write off sometimes thousands of pounds or thousands of dollars or thousands of rands or thousands of whatever currency you're in. You have to write them off because they're obsolete. They're no use anymore. They point. So think, if those items were rather, and again, you can't keep all of them, but if those items were rather an electronic model on your system in your business and were only printed on demand, either internally or you sent them out, you subcontracted them out to Mitchell and Son Additive Manufacturing or to any other service that you know, and you subcontracted those out just in time, just when you needed them, rather than end of every year you're having to write off £10,000 because you've got obsolete stock. We've written off £5,000 because you've got obsolete stock or slow-moving stock that you no longer need and there's no longer a demand for. In the current economic situation which we find ourselves globally, makes common sense, doesn't it? Or am I just waffling? Makes absolute common sense. It makes economic sense. It makes financial sense. Not only that, by saving that money, you'll be saving jobs. You'll be keeping people employed. You'll be keeping people off the street. You'll be helping families. You'll be helping individuals because you'll be saving money. Not only that, the more money you save, the more you can invest back into your business. The more you can grow the business and the better areas you can. So if you're releasing that money by having electronic data rather than physical stock, you grow in your business. Is it just me, or doesn't that make sense? I think it makes sense. It makes absolute sense. Think about that as we close. I know at the end of this week, most manufacturing plants will be shutting down. A lot of the manufacturing plants, as we are, will be having a skeleton crew. Will be there in case of an emergency. So please feel free to contact us if you need something urgently, visiting our website at mitchellson.co.uk. So it's mitchellson.co.uk. Or give me a call on 023 8124 4996. I'll be happy to answer you. I'll have my mobile. That number actually goes right directly to my mobile phone. So don't be scared thinking, oh, I won't be in the office. Give me a call or come straight to my mobile phone, and I will try and help you when I can. Look, as we go into 2023, my main aim is to help you grow your business by saving you huge amounts of money by holding physical stock. Let us partner with you, create the electronic data, the electronic stock holding that you require, so that you will manufacture on demand rather than manufacture and then, produce and then write it off at the end of the year. All our data, all our electronic models are not only equipped to 3D printing. That's a beauty. All our 3D models are what is currently used in all CNC type machines, because they are then broken down and then recoded for that language. All our 3D models can be used in injection molding tooling, because they can be broken down into the language for that, the injection molding machines. And all our models can be used on any type of technology in the 3D printing world, because it depends on the slicer or the decoder that is used to create the production model. So creating 3D models doesn't necessitate that it has to be 3D printed. A 3D model can be used in any type of modern technology, modern computer grade type or computer guided technology. And 95 to 100% of manufacturing around the world uses CNC type machines or 3D printing. So, yeah, I hope you have a good Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year. Goodbye.